Hello, how are you? My name is Francis Fox, and why would you even listen to me? I have an interesting combination of life experiences plus training. But more than that, my intention to give you extra information during revelations. Ah, so there's so much information out there. Yes, but how much of that information is actually coming from the right place and intention? How much of that information is accurate? How much of that information comes from a place where the lens is wider to where you can have more of an understanding of that information in relationship to the era that we live in? All that information that comes in, does it take into account how frequencies can affect your mind and the way you view things? So we're in Revelations, and we have very, very iffy sources of information. So there was another hysteria having to do with the Epstein Trump episode scandals. What? And Wall Street Journal and they. You know what? You guys must have led very soft lives. You have never really been in the kind of dark place that a lot of people have been in. When you've been in that dark place, you go one of two ways. You become part of it, you lose it, whatever, or if you get lucky enough or you're strong enough, you step back and you go, okay, wait a second, there's a message here. There is a reason, and I'm not defending Trump at all, and I don't need to defend anybody because nobody needs to be defended. What needs to be understood is why. But the whole issue of light and dark is not understood. So I'm going to tell a story, and depending upon how comfortable I feel, maybe I'll tell you a couple of other stories for you to widen your lens so that you can see that what you think you've got a grip on that you know, and then there's another piece of information, you're actually not looking at the right thing. Can I tell you exactly the right thing? No. But I can tell you you're not doing the right thing because I can see that there is like zero understanding of the situation. So, you know that I was in a military mind control program. I was actually bred for that program. Literally. Okay. The training was very difficult. I was in Remain Air Force Base, which of course they already closed down and they razed it to the ground and they burnt everything because there would be so much evidence there. So if you ever meet anybody from Remain Air Force Base, or if you know any military from Remain Air Force Base, you need to know that you could not get near Remain Air Force Base unless you were part of a very dark process. This is the first time I've said this openly in terms of saying the name of the base. So when we lived in a house outside town, and there was a forest between the town in Germany, and so they used to pick me up at night, and there used to be a lot of stuff that they would put me through at night. And one of the times, it's okay for me to say this. It is okay for me to say this. One of the times they picked me up and we went to the wooded area, all these military guys, and they took all of my clothes off and they filled me with blood and pieces of meat. And they had a German Shepherd. They used German Shepherds a lot to frighten us. I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, maximum 10. Um, and my mafioso enemies used to circle around my block with German Shepherds to see if they could trigger programming and get me to submit to whatever they would. So here I am. I'm a kid. I'm all full of blood. It's not mine. And they've got a German Shepherd that's, I think, very hungry. So they put a blue ribbon around the German Shepherd's neck. And they said, let's see who wins. Let's see if you can bring back that blue ribbon. And I took off running in the forest to see what tree I could climb. What I don't actually remember much about that piece. It would have been very short anyway. And the German Shepherd caught up with me. So here I am with blood on me. The German Shepherd is, you could say, bloodthirsty. I'm grabbing the German Shepherd, and we're like this. German Shepherd's face, my face. And all of a sudden, there was a spark between my eyes and the German Shepherd's eyes. And there was an instant understanding of what needed to happen next. Which, by the way, I don't remember that part. But I walked out of that forest with that blue ribbon. And they were so impressed. Again, look what Frances, my God, what she can do. I mean, it's obvious to you that the dog allowed this to happen. It's obvious to you, I hope, that that moment of understanding between that animal and me was sacred, magical, and information giving. This is something that needs to happen now. It happened. What am I saying to you? What I'm saying is you can't judge bad things. You can't judge things as good or bad. You have to see what the intention is. Where are we going with this? Where were we going? Where's the story going? There is no story going. I'm telling you a story of my life and what I went through. That happened more than one time, to where there would be a moment in which it was like, I'm going to be gone in 5 minutes, in 3 minutes, in 1 minute. And there'd be a flash and an understanding that no, I needed to continue forward. And that other person, not. It took me a long time before I could tell these stories. And it had me very confused for a long time, because that would kind of indicate that I was like an important person. And there was an agreement behind the scenes that I wasn't part of, that I needed to be allowed to continue forward. I'm not talking about intelligence community saying, let's use her as a little puppet. I'm talking, this was with a dog. So when you look, I want you to remember those two stories. And then I said one of those stories to a man that taught me a lot. Brutal, but he taught me a lot. And he said, in the past, the indigenous people, when they needed food for the tribe, and they would decide to go the next day to the river to see if some animals would be there. He said the animals would go and be by the river so that the tribe could have their food. And you go, no, 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 that's not the way it goes. I'm telling you a story that the indigenous are familiar with and they're aware of and they believe and they pass on. And then I'm telling you my story. There was another time that the whole issue with being cold, I have big trauma with being cold. I cannot be cold. But I was in Germany. A lot of the training was at night. It was snowing. It was whatever. So one time, my father took me out to the woods, took all my clothes, and just left me there. No shoes, no clothes, in the snow. And again, it was a test. Was I magical? What could I do? And I'm standing there, and the only thing that I remembered is that an angel came and picked me up, just held me up. I was not cold. My father comes back. I don't remember anybody else being with him. But eventually the other men joined, or however that played out. And they were like, oh my God, how did she do that? I guess there's two messages here. One is you really don't know what the hell life is about, and I didn't either. And the second message is, which I'm reminding myself now, we have so much more help than we know. There is so much out there, from our pets to an object falling and keeping you out of trouble, to angels, which I never believed in, to spirit guides. Did my training teach me this? No. My life experiences taught me that. Did I fully integrate this? No. I was too busy trying to survive mentally and trying to keep my head intact because of all the frequency attacks and all of the threats to my family, the threats to me, the abuse, all the rest of that. So if you widen your lens, you can understand and see that we are in revelations. Okay. Now, the Bible talks about it. I don't think they said very much. The Mayans talked about it, and they said that what was going to get revealed was everybody's dark side. Oh, well, that's where we're at, the Epstein files. No, no, no. What they said was that people would see their dark side and that they wouldn't be able to tolerate it. And that is what's going to cause the downfall of society. Not you accusing Trump and not Elon scratching his head. Oh my God, was he? Wasn't he? Why did he? No. Each and every one of us having to deal with our darkness. That's how the Mayans said it was going to end. And can I tell you something? I trust the Mayans. In the Bible, they say they don't know how it's going to end anyway. The Mayans said it's going to be one hell of a mess, but it's not. It's going to be people accusing each other. It's going to be people wanting to die or going crazy because they saw their darkness and they can't tolerate it. So we have here a society that has not been willing to deal with this darkness. So I was thinking, and I do this a lot. And people tell stories from different religions, from different things, and I say, listen, if when you were a kid, you came home and you told your mother that story, your mother would tell you were lying. Half the stuff our religions teach us, you would never, ever stand up in a public forum and repeat that as if it came from you, because it's obviously off. You can say that it was in such and such a book. That's what I like about Buddhism. There's not a lot written, and the Buddha supposedly said that he didn't want anything that he said written because he didn't know if it would be contextually valid. And that's what I think I'm saying. Contextually valid for today. So then I got into this thing. How would we explain? How are you guys going to explain this to God? Okay. So then everything ends, and you're talking to God, and then God says, "Tell me about this Epstein thing. I don't get it." Well, oh, so where's Epstein from? Oh, we really don't know where he's from. Oh, I'm sure some people must, but honestly, most of us, we don't know where he's from. Okay, so what was it all about? Well, Epstein, he would take people in his plane to a place, and then they would have a lot of sex with inappropriate and with little kids, and it was all a big secret. And there was God was saying, but why was it such a big secret? They wanted sex. Well, no, but you can only have sex with your wife. Oh, that's interesting. So how many people only have sex with their wife? Well, nobody. They don't really, I mean, they're supposed to, but they don't limit themselves to their wives. There's very few people, God, that actually make it through the end of the marriage and they weren't with someone else. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so all these people, society got destroyed because you have all of these people, a lot of whom everybody thought were really good people. And did a lot of them did a lot of good things. So they wanted orgasms. And you go, no, 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 no. They were into perverted sex. Yeah, but sex, the goal is orgasm. This is God talking. That's not the point, God. That's not the point. And God's going, but maybe that is the point. So, what is it about orgasm that everybody has to do all these shenanigans to get there? God, that is really not the point. How could it not be the point? Why was why were they going to the island? Well, they were going to the island to have sex. Well, but why do people have sex? Well, why do people have sex? Well, for orgasm. So then all these people are looking for orgasm. God, you just don't get it. You know what? You guys don't get it. You don't even know what orgasm is? Orgasm is spiritual ecstasy. Look at St. Teresa's statue, St. Teresa de Avila. She did an autobiography. She describes her meeting with an angel with his lance that makes her feel hot. And you look at her face in the statue, and she's in the middle of an orgasm. She's describing an orgasm. No, she's describing spiritual ecstasy. Yes, she is, which is orgasm. That's what orgasm is. So, what was God's point? What God's point is the point. Why are they flying to the island? Why are they looking for young girls? And why are they looking for perverted pornography? Well, both those things can help stimulate a man who's not able to achieve orgasm easily. So we're still back to orgasm because it's a lot more comfortable for the men just to have their sex in their bedroom with their wives. Why all of this running around, all of this dangerous situation? By the way, fear augments sexual energies. Fear of being caught. And that is stimulating for people, for men, I guess women also, who are limping in their orgasm seeking ability. So now we have a bigger problem than everything else put together, according to Elon Musk, to Trump, and to everybody else, and I believe them. We're in population collapse, and humanity is going to end. Nobody's having sex. Oh, yeah, but they're running off to islands and they're doing all these things to have sex. What the hell? And I'm sure God's going, wait a second. Wait a second. Who's in charge here? Nobody. Well, the press, the media, and they love to make issues. Well, but does the media talk about sex and orgasm? You can't talk about sex and orgasm on any social platform because they take down your platform. Why do they do that? Well, we don't want to offend anybody. Sex offends people? The connection to God, spiritual ecstasy offends people? Well, yeah, apparently. Like the churchgoers. The churchgoers. Okay. What do they say about sex and spiritual ecstasy? Well, their leader, they kind of did this thing and in history, and they kind of said that the leader never had sex. And he was actually conceived without sex. And God says, and you guys bought that? I got a river to son. No. Yeah, we bought that. So your spiritual leader was born, but the mother never had sex. And he never had sex, but he's your leader and he's teaching you how to do life. And your big issue that looks like it's going to destroy society is the Epstein list, but they don't really care that the guy anybody got on his plane. They care about the fact they went to an island that was all about sex. Okay. I don't know what to tell you guys. You're still focusing on the wrong thing. You have population collapse having to do with no sex. You have everybody talking about the Epstein thing. They're not talking about sex. You're holding up a model for society that nobody follows. Therefore, we're all bad. Look at that poor CEO that went to the concert, the Coldplay concert, and they put him up there. His life is gonna be destroyed. By the way, somebody was very mean in X. They put a photograph of his wife and their kids in the kitchen, and their comment was, "She's gonna be making a gazillion dollars." That was mean. Really, really, really mean. But people's people are too addicted to the frequency of microwave, which is all the electronics, and microwave turns people into mean people, and to bad people, and to aggressive people, and to further and by the way, kills sex drive. So let's not even tell God about the whole thing with the cell phone and how it kills sex drive, and it reduces sperm count. So all these women that can't get pregnant, that. But don't tell God about that because He's going to be like, you know what? I think you need to turn around and go back. Can you make a difference over there? Will somebody listen to you? No, actually, they won't. Why won't they listen to you? I can't talk about this on social media. They'll take my platforms down. I can't talk about it socially because everybody has all this shame about sex. Why are they ashamed about sex? The, the leader of the religion, he never had sex. So obviously it must have been bad. You're not going to figure this out. What you have to do is stay centered and pray that your intelligence of the heart, which Aristotle and Plato said was the important intelligence, not the intelligence of the head, intelligence of the heart, that the intelligence of the heart guides you to what you should be doing and where you should be at. Throwing yourself into this thing with Epstein is going to get you no place because you see, my control, I have to be careful, would look at things with a very wide lens. He would look at things because he was in the government, he had important positions, and he was very much behind the scenes in things where he didn't have an official position. He would look at things and make decisions and taught me, you make decisions like this. What happens in 5 years if I do this? What happens in 10, 15, 25, 50, and 100 years? People don't think like that, but they actually should because it makes a huge difference. One of the things he taught me about marriage, he was very strict. He was what? WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Oh my God. And an earth sign, very. mm. But being able to widen the lens helps a lot. If you can, so I'm going to give an opinion. This is an opinion. If you can be as solidly behind Trump as you've been up till now, most of the people who follow me, and this stuff comes out, the perfect expression is the shit hits the fan with what was new, I don't know. And you can turn, I'm not too sure you're much of a solid citizen. Or maybe you're not aware, which I think is where I was going when I was talking about my control and planning things 100 years in advance. The bad guys know about all this stuff with revelations. They know all about the ETs. They're in control. They're in charge. They know everything is going to be revealed. I remember, let's see if I can say this story. Give me a second. I remember overhearing a conversation from my control, and he was telling, actually, Gerardo Rivera, who's not my favorite person, but he will like this. This person was telling somebody else over the phone, listen, everything, and this would have been 40 years ago, not today, 40 years ago. He was saying everything is going to be revealed. That goddamn Gerardo Rivera show has given everybody permission to talk. So what did they do? The bad guys, because this guy, my control, was one of the bad guys. Very bright. Um, what did they do? I'm not exactly sure what they do, but I can guarantee you that they took care of that. Oh, everything's going to be revealed. Okay, so then we have to create information. We're talking 40 years ago. It could have been 50. I'm not sure. I remembered it in the early 90s. So we should create all this stuff about the good guys starting now and throw it into the mix. And then at some point in the future, when it all comes out, this stuff that we created is going to come out too. And people are going to get totally confused, which is what's happening now. Now, do I know exactly that these people knew my control and they were part of the ones that 40 or 50 years ago? No. But I remember the conversation, and I know because they worked on things that had to do with planetary history, which none of you do, and they would have known about revelations, they would have known about all this stuff. So they took care of it well in advance. And there you are at home getting your stuff on the internet, not the important stuff about orgasm, not the important stuff about how everything's been distorted. No, 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 no. You're still going to things like newspapers and you're listening to them and you're reacting. Well, first place, if you want to stay sane, you can't react. You have to find your center. You can look at stuff, but if you start reacting, first place, when this whole thing with Trump started, the Epstein, what, a week and a half ago, I was ready to just jump into a deep depression. And then I went, no, 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 no. From there, I'm not getting any place. And I continued my work. I continued the maps. The maps look good. They are limping, but the planet is limping because guess what? You're so busy talking about the whole Epstein thing. You're not taking in the fact that the planet now, today, is under alien attack. But they don't use bombs and submachine guns. They use frequencies. They heat up human assemblage, the human mind. When you have too much heat in your head, that's the basis for mental illness, according to Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. You don't even know that. You're not seeing that. You have quit pointing your finger. Why aren't they admitting the whole thing with the aliens? Well, you already know that they know about the aliens. You already know they have bodies. You already know that they were incredibly disrespectful to the Peruvians that had bodies, and the Mexicans, they spit on them because they said they had alien bodies. You know what? Now the university professors in the United States are going over to check it out. But you lost your position in the world. Because everybody knows there's aliens and everybody knows there's bodies and everybody knows about the alien attacks, except you guys. And then you're busy arguing about the Epstein thing, and it's all a setup. In the first place, and Trump said it and everybody else said it, the bad guys were in charge of the file forever. Did you really think they were just playing canasta? If 40 years ago, the people in charge, the bad guys in charge, knew that Revelations was going to happen, do you think they sat there twiddling their thumbs? They didn't. So now let me see if I can make this statement. I need to make sure I don't get into trouble. The handling of the archives the archives are only handled by the top people in the intelligence community. So when you're talking about the history of this country, that goes through the filter of the intelligence community, what they want you to know. Now, was all that information from Epstein in the intelligence community's hands? Yes. And whose hands would it have been in? The top people. And what's their specialty? Disinformation. I knew more about disinformation than all of you guys put together in the 90s because the guy that controlled me was a specialist. It's disgusting how easy it is to point you in a different direction. Now somebody started in with Melania. She had an Epstein visa. Let me tell you something. People in glass houses cannot throw stones. I'm not talking about Trump and Melania. I'm talking about all of you guys. We have had a system that has been very kind of loose. And we have all done stuff that today we would prefer not to say that we have done, because today it's considered like bad, the end of the world. It was always stuff that supposedly you weren't supposed to do, but you could do it. It was everybody did it. It was okay. When I see that they caught whoever, Schiff, mortgage fraud. Okay, God, that guy that's been the worst. He's going down because of mortgage fraud. What's that? Oh, he said that that was the house he lived in. Well, what's the big deal with that? Well, there's a law. You can't. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do not expect a lot of support if you step back and you start looking at things and you widen your lens. The person that was your enemy for a long time can end up actually being your biggest support. And that being your enemy may have been a process that was necessary for one or both of you to become stronger or to understand something or to get positioned for something. The white and black, the dark, the light, the good, and all the rest of that. If you don't let that go, you're going to be really miserable from here until the end. And we're basically almost at the end, because those lines have been released. This is why Jesus Christ said, don't judge. In Buddhism, you don't judge. You're not supposed to judge. But it's not that you're supposed to shut your mouth and not say what you're thinking. You're not supposed to judge that they're bad, that they're evil, that they're dark. And you're doing it. And you're putting yourself on one side of the line when that division has been erased. But if you're not in the center of it, we're all waiting for the next person to fall, the revelations about the next person. Why is it so much fun to get people to see people fall? Where's, and this is just theoretical, I'm saying, where's the compassion? It's not there. Well, you baby should look for it, because you see, your darkness will also come out. And if you haven't done anything that's bad in your entire life, you must be like a really boring person living by yourself, whatever. I don't know. Because this is a planet of duality, light and dark. And this is the point at which the two have to come together and merge. And that merging creates a human with incredible strength. I couldn't have the strength I had today if I hadn't been through all that darkness. Before I incarnated, I chose to be in the deepest darkness, which ended up being the US military intelligence, the deepest darkness on the planet, because I wanted to learn and I wanted to be positioned. So you could say, no, she's still being handled, Francis. I was the one who chose where I was going to be born and the reason why. And yes, do I still have people try to handle me? Yes. Do I know who my next handle is? I'm hoping that Trump is strong enough and there will not be a next handler. But regardless, I need to do what I need to do. I need to say what I need to say. So I think that when everything ends, if you go upstairs to God and you start telling him what things were like at the end, he's going to be, but what about orgasm? So all those people wanted orgasm and everybody was stopping them? Why? No, well, No, I don't know. Why was everybody being stopped from having orgasms? Why did they have to run off to an island? Look at St. Teresa of Avila. Look at the statue. I think I already took it down. I used to have it here. No, I have it because it's a cover of my book. This is St. Teresa of Avila. This is her and the Angel has a lance in his right hand. You can't see it in the picture. And she's in the middle of ecstasy from an orgasm without having had physical body sex, which they teach you in Buddhist Tantrism. I don't know that. Um, but that's not the first or the last time somebody has an orgasm without having a partner there. She's describing spiritual ecstasy. So basically, when all these people are running around and they're wanting orgasm, they're really looking for spiritual ecstasy. They don't know that, but they know the feeling. They know the feeling and they want it. And if you've ever experienced tantric sex, I have experienced it. I can tell you that after one experience of tantric sex, it's almost like, I remember telling my therapist, that was years ago. I remember telling her, it's almost like you don't want to live anymore because you had this experience that was so incredible and it kind of dulls the rest of life. And I'm speaking legitimately. Well, that's not a good thing either, but it dulls the rest of life, the life that we're required to live. By the way, dolphins, which I'm a dolphin consciousness, dolphins are known to be very sexual. Well, I took a group of people on a dolphin trip, and the man who ran the trip, and I don't remember his name, it was years ago. That's what he did for a living in the Bahamas, in Bimini. And he said, dolphins are known to be very sexual, but they're not really. They really don't have that much sex. They're very sensual. They touching. They want to touch. They want to be together. They want to touch. So I just wanted to throw that piece of information out. So, Yellowstone had and probably still has animals that are leaving in droves. And I have not checked if that's continuing. I need to have some kind of a place where I can go and somebody who actually checks Yellowstone every day. So if anybody has a connection, I mean, in terms of a website or whatever, I want to know what's happening with the animals. But let's go ahead and do the map and then let's finish. And I think I'm not going to do this Friday nights at 7 because I sit around waiting and everybody wants to start their weekend and I do too. So I think I'll do this on Fridays like at 5 if I do it on a Friday, okay? So here's the map. And the frequency in the United States is good, except for those two lines. And there is a bubble, and I don't know what states those are. But somebody should, let me see. US map. I can. Let me see what states those are. I guess what? Give me a second. Those are Pennsylvania, Ohio. You need to look it up yourself because this will be very boring, this part, to the people that are listening to this in a podcast. So those have a heavy congestion of rage. So I'll get my group and we'll continue to work on that. The rest of the lines look good. I don't see any galactic Merkaba. That doesn't mean it's not there, but I'm not sketching it, which means that it's not strong. And you do have the gold pyramids in the Gulf of Mexico, and that is very stabilizing. And so what the map says at the top, because part of it is cut out, is repairing. The United States is repairing. People are waking up and understanding. And this helps Trump and the stability of the nation. So that is my contribution. It's very good because we are under an alien attack. I know it just went in this year and it went out the other. I know. When I worked intensely with my control decades ago, a lot of discoveries were made, such as eyeglasses that would contain a book in them. I remember one day telling my husband about that, and he went, "God, you're getting crazy." And anyway, a lot of things were discovered. And the funding for the program that I was in was supposedly to learn things to turn over to the school system so that they could help the kids raise their IQ, because you can raise IQ, by the way. They did that to all the kids in the program. I mean, a lot. Just frighten somebody enough. When they're young, they become a lot more intelligent. They're a lot more savvy. They know how to hop, skip, and run. They had to learn. So, and I would say to him, you really need to get this information to the public. And he'd say, the public is not interested. In one ear, out the other. So, we're going to let it go now. We're not even going to do a mantra. But I want to remind you that you have homework. You're to look at everybody around you, look in their eyes, make sure that they're inside their bodies. And you can tell when you look in their eyes, and when they don't want to look in your eyes, they're not in their body. Okay? So get them in their body. Do the even though I want to die mantra. If you're near somebody that you know is not going to do it, and you kind of think that maybe they're like really unhappy, don't let people avoid looking at you. You need to look at all the people that you love. Okay? Face to face. You need to look at them. Or on a video chat. You need to put coconut oil in your belly button. That is a portal that the aliens that you don't really believe in, but you will if the government gives you permission. Yes, you will do that then. But don't believe in it. Just put coconut oil in your belly button every day. Olive oil in your ears. If you can sleep with green socks, it would be great, because green is earth. And at night, we get very ungrounded, and that's when the spirits really, really invade. And 2 discoveries we made in my paid classes. I had 4 people that signed up for a very expensive class, but I sketched all 4 of them having to do with their jaw. Bruxemia, however it's pronounced in Spanish. When you get lockjaw, your jaw's not working right, your jaw's out of. I had 4 people. 3 of the 4 people have a problem with their jaw because someone slapped them when they were young. Got that? But it makes sense. When you get slapped, you don't get slapped here. If you get slapped here. This is exactly where the jawbone is. I was not expecting that. Sleep apnea is when, if I sketch you and I sketch that your center axis has red here, that means you have sleep apnea. Or one of the symptoms will be sleep apnea. So, of the several people, but that class and other classes where I have sketched the tube that you have here, which is your Holy Grail, causal body, if it is full of red, you're going to have sleep apnea. Who gets sleep apnea? Don't go, who the hell is this woman saying these things? I'm just telling you what's getting revealed with my remote viewing, and I'm very well known for being really accurate. Sleep apnea. So do I do it? Do I say this the American way? Back door, underneath, or do I say it the way it is? I think I'll say it the way it is. If you have sleep apnea, you're a liar. What are you saying? What I'm saying is that you're not a truthful person. I never lie. Yeah, you do. You say you like your job, and you don't. You've hated it for years. You're just afraid to go out because you're too old and you don't. Well, but that's not lying. Yeah, that is lying. And you hate your wife's sister, and you pretend you like her because you want everything to be fine in the family. Yeah, but everybody does that. It's still a lie. All this social lying has created issues for this energy center, which is, guess what? Like almost the most important. In Christianity, it says that the world started with the word, this energy center. In Hinduism and Buddhism, it starts with Om, a sound. This energy center here, not this, here is all about truth. And we're all liars. Now, does that mean you have to tell your wife that you hate her sister? No. Does that mean you have to say everything that you feel? No. That's the power of the mantras. They're done in silence. You can be at a party watching your wife's sister make a fool of herself and not stand her because you don't like that. And you can just sit there and nobody will know you're going, even though I hate her, I love and accept myself. Or even though I hate her and there's nothing I can do because you got to invite her to the parties, it's your wife's sister. Just do it silently, even though I hate her. You process your reaction and then you do whatever is socially acceptable. You don't have to tell anybody, but you can't keep it inside yourself because it's astral particles and they collect and then they end up creating disturbances in the flow of your consciousness. When it's not flowing here, it's actually here. You may end up with sleep apnea. You're also not able to energize your third eye. So those were the two exciting things that we discovered. I think I had already told you about the sleep apnea, but the one with the slap, I did not expect that. Okay, so that's it. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope you try this little format that I have given you and try to explain to God your position on things. You're going to have, God is going to be looking at everything this wide and very whatever, and you're going to be looking at it to where the people who put out news took you. Because you didn't get that information on your own. And you don't have the background information. You don't know that the archives are set up by the intelligence community. So US history is totally controlled. So 100 years from now, when they read about the United States, it will be through the filter of the people that almost took this country down. But you didn't know that. Okay. It's okay that you didn't know that. What's not okay is that you miss every opportunity for widening your lens and going, why would we need this problem? Why did Elon and Trump need that problem? Don't answer. I don't know. Why did we need this little upset right now? There was a reason for it. We only have a problem according to the way the planet is set up if we need it. Why did we need this more than a bump in the road? Was it to shake people up for them to kind of go, wait a second, I can't be reacting because you see this reaction with how long, how many years did they have the Epstein files? I know what they can do in 5 minutes. I know what they did to my life to destroy my reputation. And this has been like 5 or 7 years. Because before that, it was just to simply keep me down, which they did a really good job at. Anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. Okay? And just think about it. How would you explain all of this to God? The whole sex thing, honestly, and none of you associate Epstein with orgasm. None of you. Or Diddy. Or Schiff. You don't upset. You don't see the connection. That statue of Saint Teresa is several hundred years old. When I show it to people and say she's in the middle of an orgasm, they go, oh my God, I know that statue. How come I never noticed that? Love you.